It's 2 a.m., you're in bed. Your body is heavy with exhaustion, and something in you refuses to switch off. Not anxiety, nothing specific on your mind. You're not replaying a conversation or planning tomorrow. You're just awake, wired, in a body that should be unconscious by now. If this is you, I want to tell you what's actually happening, because the story you've probably been telling yourself, that you just can't sleep properly, that something is wrong with you, is not the real story. This isn't a sleep disorder in the medical sense. It's your nervous system sending a different message than the one you keep trying to override. I see this pattern more than almost any other in the people I work with. They've done the homework, no screens, cool room, no caffeine after 2 p.m. They've tried melatonin, magnesium, sleep meditation apps, and they're still staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m, wondering what's broken in them. Nothing is broken, but the frame they've been given is wrong. And as long as the frame is wrong, nothing they do will land. Here's the shift. You don't have a sleep problem. You have a nervous system that's trying to tell you something. And until you understand what it's trying to say, you can't have the conversation that actually helps you sleep. In this video, I'll walk you through what your body's actually doing when you can't fall asleep despite being tired. I'll explain why standard sleep advice doesn't work for this pattern. And I'll give you a 3-part practice you can use tonight that works with your nervous system instead of against it. Most sleep advice assumes the problem is outside in. Your environment, your habits, your bedtime routine. Fix the inputs and sleep will follow. And sometimes that works. If you're drinking espresso at 8 p.m. or scrolling bright screens at midnight, yes, fixing those helps. But if you've already done the basics and you're still wired at 2 a.m, outside-in advice has nothing left to offer you. Because the problem was never outside in to begin with, it was inside out. When your nervous system hasn't received the signals it needs to feel safe, sleep feels dangerous. Not in a conscious way, in a deep body-level way that overrides your intentions. Your system believes, on some level, that staying awake is protecting you, so it keeps parts of you alert, even when you're desperate to rest. This is the gap nobody talks about. There's a difference between being tired and being able to sleep. You can be exhausted and still not safe enough. In your body's reading of the situation, to release into the vulnerable state sleep requires. And sleep is vulnerable. Think about what your body does during deep sleep. Muscles release, heart rate drops, consciousness dissolves. Your system has to trust that it's okay to let go of all that for hours while the world keeps happening around you. If your body doesn't trust that yet, it won't let you, no matter how much you want it to, no matter how many breathing apps you use. This isn't a willpower issue, it's a communication issue, and the body, as always, has the final say. Let me get specific about what's happening inside you. Sleep requires your parasympathetic nervous system to take over. That's the rest and digest mode, the it's safe now mode, the part of you that handles everything your body does when it's not under threat. But when your nervous system is dysregulated, the sympathetic system stays partially engaged, fight or flight on standby, just in case. One of the main culprits is cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that should naturally drop in the evening, signaling to your body that the day is ending and it's safe to wind down. In a regulated nervous system, cortisol falls as the sun does, but chronic stress keeps cortisol elevated into the night. Your body reads high cortisol as stay alert, regardless of how peaceful your bedroom is. You've done everything right on the outside, and inside, your chemistry is still telling your body it's midday in a threat zone. The vagus nerve is the other piece. This is the major nerve that runs from your brainstem down through your body. It carries the all-clear signals that let your nervous system settle into parasympathetic dominance. When you're chronically stressed, vagal tone drops. Those all-clear signals stop arriving. Your body never gets the green light. And there's a third layer most sleep advice completely misses. Your nervous system processes the day's activation during the transition into sleep. It's actually doing work, clearing stored tension, integrating stimulation, finishing emotional loops that got interrupted, If you've accumulated a lot of that and haven't given it anywhere to go, your body can't surrender into deep rest until the processing is done. This is why you can feel mentally alert and restless, despite being physically wrecked. Your body isn't refusing to sleep. It's still working, still in processing mode. It hasn't reached rest mode yet. When I explain this to people, I watch something visibly settle in them. The self-blame eases, the sense that they're broken eases, because the truth is their body's doing exactly what bodies are supposed to do. The system is intact, it just hasn't been given what it needs to complete the transition. Once you see that, you stop fighting yourself, and that alone changes everything. In traditional Chinese medicine, there's a name for this exact state. It's called An Shen, which translates roughly as unsettled spirit. The old practitioners weren't naive about sleep. They'd seen this pattern for a couple of thousand years, and their framing of it is striking because it matches what we're only now understanding about the nervous system. They said the spirit can't descend into rest when something in the inner landscape is still standing guard. The response was never to force sleep, never to shame the person for not being able to sleep. The response was to settle the inner state first and let sleep follow. That principle, settle the inner state first and let sleep follow, is exactly what nervous system regulation is doing in modern terms. They had practices for preparing what they called the vessel for sleep, slow standing meditation in the late evening, gentle movement to complete the day's activation, vocalization practices that we now recognize as vagus nerve activation. None of it was superstition. It was pattern recognition across generations of working with human bodies. What I appreciate about this framing is the humility in it. They didn't treat sleep as something you execute. They treated it as something you receive. Once you've prepared yourself properly, you create the internal conditions, you make the invitation, then you wait. Modern research on vagal tone and cortisol regulation is validating what these older frameworks knew in a different language. Sleep doesn't respond to forcing. It responds to the right internal environment. That shift from executing sleep to receiving it is the shift this whole practice rests on. So here's what to do. This is not a relaxation technique. It's a nervous system communication practice. The goal is to send your system the signals it needs to feel safe enough to release. 3 parts. Part 1. Activation discharge, 90 minutes before bed. 10 to 15 minutes of slow, gentle movement, not exercise, not stretching. Just slow walking around your space, gentle swaying. Movements that feel like completing the day. You're not burning energy. You're giving your nervous system a signal that the period of demands is ending, that it's safe to start powering down. Think of it as the body's version of closing the browser tabs. Do this in a low-light environment. Don't listen to anything stimulating. Let the movement be slow enough that you can feel each step. The slowness itself is the message. Part 2. The settling sequence in bed. Lie on your back, one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Don't try to fall asleep. That's important. The moment you try to fall asleep, you've activated effort, and effort is exactly what keeps you awake. Instead, focus on the feeling of your body being supported by the bed. Feel the weight, feel the contact, feel the fact that nothing is required of you in this moment. Your only job is to be horizontal and present. Notice where your body is touching the mattress. Notice the slight rise and fall under your hands. You're not controlling anything. You're just registering that you're here, in a body, on a bed, with no task. This sounds too simple to work. It's not. The signal you're sending is no demand, no task, safe. And that signal is what your nervous system has been waiting for. Part 3. Vagus voice activation, if your mind goes active. If thoughts start circling, don't fight them. Fighting them activates the system you're trying to settle. Instead, open your mouth slightly and exhale gently on an ah sound. 10 to 15 seconds on one exhale. Then let the next breath come naturally and repeat. This vocalization activates the vagus nerve through the throat and mouth. It's a physiological backdoor into parasympathetic dominance. When direct efforts to relax don't work, this often does, because it bypasses the mental layer entirely and signals through the tissue. 3 or 4 rounds is usually enough. The key thing to understand about this whole protocol is that some nights your system will need more discharge time than others, some nights less. A rigid bedtime routine assumes your nervous system is the same every night. It isn't. Some days deposit more activation than others. What matters is learning to read your body's actual state and respond to that state, not follow a formula. When you start working with your nervous system's real needs rather than against them, sleep stops feeling like something you have to wrestle into existence. It starts feeling like something that happens on its own, when the conditions are right. Here's what I want you to take from all of this. You don't have a sleep problem. You have a nervous system that's been asking for something different than what you've been giving it. Standard sleep advice treats the symptom. This approach treats the communication. The practitioners who worked with An Shen for centuries understood something modern research is only now catching up to. Sleep is not something you execute. It's something you receive once you've settled the inner state that's been keeping you on guard. Try the protocol tonight. Activation discharge, 90 minutes out. Settling sequence in bed. Vagus activation if the mind goes active. Notice what shifts. Not in terms of whether you fell asleep faster, but in terms of what your body felt like as it got closer to sleep. That's the real metric, not how quickly you fell asleep, but whether the transition felt forced or natural. If you want a daily companion for this kind of nervous system work, QiGuide is built for exactly this. Link in the description. See you in the next one.